Two huge storms are about to impact the United States, and these are both going to bring big problems, including the risk of significant severe weather, which includes the risk of tornadoes today across the southeast and the Ohio Valley. Additionally, a major snow event is about to unfold across the northern plains, the Midwest, and the Great Lakes just in time for Thanksgiving, where some areas could pick up as much as 24 inches of snowfall. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. We are only 2 days away from Thanksgiving, and right now we have a big storm system that is making its way across the southeast, including the Dixie Alley. And this area is forecasted to see more severe storms today, including the risk of damaging winds, hail, and maybe even a few tornadoes. Additionally, we have another big storm system across the northern plains, and this is actually going to merge with the remnants of our storm system in the southeast later today, which is actually going to be very interesting because it's going to create a lot of fuel to produce the threat of heavy snowfall tonight and tomorrow, especially across areas like North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So big storms are coming over the next couple of days. Now, we have a lot to talk about in this forecast, including the threat of snow, severe weather, and another big storm that is coming after Thanksgiving. But I do want to talk more about the severe weather potential for today. This is pretty important because it is driven by tornadoes. We do have a slight risk of severe weather in place for central Alabama back into southeastern Mississippi. Marginal threat also in southeastern Tennessee back into the Gulf Coast, where again the biggest concern today is actually going to be tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center has a 5% tornado risk outlined in that slight risk area. So today is a day that you want to make sure that you're staying weather aware, having multiple ways to receive warnings, and have a tornado action plan ready to go. And there is a chance of a live stream on this channel later today with lots of storm chasers. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified if we do go live. Now, I do think today's tornado threat is going to be a bit more elevated than what we saw yesterday across the deep south, and it's mainly because of the fact that we have very curved photographs which are going to fit perfectly for how small our storms are going to be today. It might sound kind of weird, but today's storms are not going to be very tall, but they're going to be taking advantage of a lot of wind shear across the southeast today. So by late morning, we'll continue to have a pretty favorable environment for at least a couple of spin-up tornadoes. That'll be primarily in central and southern Alabama. That'll be through about 12 o'clock or so. After 12, that's when I think things pick up a little bit in intensity. I think our main tornado risk will be from about 11 a.m. until about 4 p.m. this afternoon, where we have a pretty favorable corridor anywhere from about Huntsville, Alabama, all the way back through Mobile, where a few supercells will try to form. These are going to be very small storms, but any of these that take advantage of our environment today will be capable of producing the potential for a couple of tornadoes. Generally speaking, our environment will stay favorable for spin-up tornadoes all the way through about sunset, and then after sunset, I think things will start to quiet down. But overall, today's environment is definitely favorable for a few tornadoes. Now, here's our timing for severe weather today, beginning with what's happening right now. We got a big line of thunderstorms rolling across Alabama and Georgia. This is stabilizing things quite a bit across northern Alabama and northwestern Georgia right now, but as we go later into this morning, that line is going to weaken pretty quickly, which will open the door for some storms to fire up by late morning into the early afternoon, and by as early as 10 to 11 o'clock, we could have a couple of supercells that start to organize and rotate and maybe even produce a tornado threat by as early as around 11 o'clock back over near Mobile. By 12 to 1, storms will continue to move to the northeast. Again, notice how these storms are going to be very small across the board, but any of these will be able to rotate in today's environment, and we could see the threat again of a couple of tornadoes during the late morning and early afternoon. By 3 to 4 o'clock, we'll continue to watch an environment where it's still pretty favorable for tornadoes, especially back over in central Alabama, just south of Huntsville. I do think a tornado or two are going to be possible in this corridor during the mid to late afternoon, and then after 6 o'clock tonight, I think the storm threat is going to start to die down. We're going to have a lot more capping that comes into play, which basically means our temperatures are going to be increasing as we go aloft, especially in the 900 to 1000 millibar range, and then overnight things will be really quiet across the southeast with only a couple of rumbles of thunder remaining across the Carolinas and southeastern Georgia. And then as we go into Wednesday, things are much quieter for the southeast. Now, while all these storms are happening, we are going to see some big snowfall over the next couple of days, especially in the northern plains in the Midwest. This is what it looks like this morning. We got heavy snowfall rolling its way across northern Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Late this afternoon into the evening, that snow is going to make its way into far northern Wisconsin. We are talking about the possibility of 3 to 4 inches of snow falling per hour. That is significant, and we are really going to see that ramp up overnight tonight across areas like northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan, where we could see upwards of 18 to 24 inches of snowfall in some areas by the time we go into Wednesday afternoon. It's all going to basically fall within 24 hours. By Wednesday late afternoon, heavy snow will continue across the upper peninsula of Michigan and as well as across most coast of Michigan is where we'll at least see some lake effect snow make its way across those areas. And then as we go into late Wednesday, early Thursday, snow will continue again across the upper peninsula of Michigan. It's not going to end there anytime soon. And then lake effect snow will ramp up right on Thanksgiving Day back over in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, where snowfall rates will likely be around 1 to 2 inches of snow per hour. And then throughout Thanksgiving, snow is going to continue to fall there across the Great Lakes and even parts of the Northeast before eventually things will start to wind down on Friday. But even on Friday, I still think lake effect snow will at least continue on Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, but back over in areas like Michigan, things will definitely wind down on Friday. Overall, we're going to be talking about a lot of snow over the next few days, and a lot of it is going to fall in a very short amount of time. Now, in terms of our snowfall totals, we are going to be talking about a lot of snow over the next few days. A widespread 6 to 12 inches of snow is in the forecast from North Dakota back into the upper peninsula of Michigan, but there will be plenty of areas in northern Wisconsin and also the upper peninsula of Michigan that'll pick up as much as 12 to 24 inches of snow. I honestly think we do have a possibility of seeing over 24 inches of snow in some areas back over in the far western part of the upper peninsula of Michigan. We could actually have an area maybe near 3 feet of snow when this is all said and done, and that's because of a combination of our low pressure system and our lake effect snow. Once you combine those two things, we are talking about big snowfall totals. And then back over in most of Michigan, also back over in areas like Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, that is where we're going to be talking about some localized areas between 1 to 2 feet, but generally speaking, if you're more inland or further away from the lakes, we're not going to be talking about nearly as significant of snowfall accumulation, with most areas picking up around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall right in time for Thanksgiving. But again, if you're right along the immediate lakes, especially in northwestern areas of Michigan, far western New York or northwestern Pennsylvania, or back over near Watertown, New York, those will be the hot spots where there will be localized areas around 1 to 2 feet of snow. Otherwise, widespread 3 to 8 inches of snow is in the forecast outside of those localized areas. Now, after this winter storm is all said and done, we are going to be talking about a very different weather pattern as we go in this upcoming weekend and next week, which is the beginning of December. Our synoptic weather pattern is going to feature a large low pressure system along the desert southwest and really along the west coast. This is basically going to help to fuel lots of moisture to enter into the Great Plains, the southeast, and the Ohio Valley, and we are going to have a battle zone set up next week where we are going to see a dividing line between very cold and very warm air, which means that we'll have a battle zone of severe weather and also snowfall and maybe even some ice in some areas. We could actually have multiple storm systems next week. We may also just have 1 or 2 storms that produce all of these different things, including snow, severe weather, and a lot of other problems. So in just a moment, we're going to talk more about that. But overall, this weather pattern that we're going into for early December is something that kind of reminds me of what we saw back in January or February of this year, where we end up seeing a couple of different winter storms that brought ice, snow, and also severe weather all at the same time. So overall, the first week of December is a week that you need to watch closely for any hazards of weather. And we're going to talk more about the future radar in a moment, but I just want to show you the temperature trends for the next 7 to 10 days. We're going to get one shot of cold air Wednesday and Thursday across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. Unfortunately, this is arriving right before Thanksgiving, so it will be a pretty chilly Thanksgiving for most areas along the East Coast on Thursday. Friday, Saturday, that cold air will linger, and then another shot of cold air is likely Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, which will drop even more cold air into the Great Plains, the Midwest, and across the Great Lakes, which means that things are going to be very chilly for the foreseeable future, especially if you're in the Midwest. And we will likely see more shots of cold air as we go into the first few days of December, especially across the Northeast. And then as we go into the second week of December, things get a lot more uncertain, but it's almost for sure that we are going to be talking about a lot of cold air to start out meteorological winter. Now let's put this all into more simplistic terms with the future radar. This is what it looks like over the next couple of days. Again, big winter storm will make its way across the Great Lakes in the Northeast on Thursday and Friday. By Saturday, we're at least going to get a brief shot of snow across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. This could end up being a winter storm. It's just a little too early to tell what's exactly going to happen on Saturday, but I do think at least some light to moderate snow is in the picture for those areas on Saturday. Sunday and Monday, severe weather may become a concern across the Deep South and the Southeast, but again, just a little too early to tell exactly what's going to happen there. And then beyond this, this is where things get very hairy. The models are all over the place right now with anything beyond Sunday. One thing that we need to keep an eye on is if the moisture will continue to come out of the Pacific and if we're going to continue to just have a high pressure system sitting to the north of all of this moisture. If that's the case, we are likely going to see a very active start to next week where we'll have a lot of snow, a lot of rain, and a lot of severe weather. However, that might not happen. The European model's been hinting that we're going to have a very quick moving storm system on Saturday and Sunday, and then after that, high pressure quickly comes out of Canada, basically suppressing any moisture coming from the Pacific and kind of keeping that all towards the Gulf Coast, which means winter storms and severe weather weather would at least be a little bit less likely for next week. So there's a couple of different scenarios as of right now, and hopefully by tomorrow's forecast we'll have a much better idea of what's going to be happening next week. But no matter what, it is going to be a very active next 7 to 10 days. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as we'll be the first to let you know on any big weather changes that happen in the forecast. And a big announcement, we officially have cheese curd merch. That is my cat out on our store at shopmaxvelocity.net. We also have a Black Friday sale going on to go along with this. It's at the very top. You can use the code Black Friday for $5 off on $50 or more. We have t-shirts. We also have a crew neck sweatshirt, long sleeve t-shirt, a mug, and also a kids t-shirt. So check this all out again at shopmaxvelocity.net. It is the top link in the description below. And we will see you all again in the next video or possible live stream later today.